Well, everything is getting crazier and crazier, especially here in the US, with us experiencing riots and protests all across the country on top of a global pandemic. So before we get into the nerdy stuff, I just wanted to say to all black people in the United States, to all people of color in general, I stand with you, I support you, I'm here for you, I will do whatever I can to help. These are all truly troubling times, and we should all do whatever we can to help each other. To others that feel the same way as me, if you want to contribute in another way, I will be putting links to different organizations and different petitions that you could potentially sign and donate money to show your support. Thanks, everyone. Now let's go have some fun. So you nerds want to talk about comic books, huh? Well, why don't you head over to the Dork Convention so you can all talk about how you're never gonna get lit? Whoa, I'm so sorry about that, guys. I don't know how he keeps getting in my videos, but, you know, I'm not gonna take that, okay? Like, it's not cool. We're just some comic book enthusiasts. It's not a big deal.
Anyways.
So the last video I made was about a comic book haul that I had gotten a few years ago, and I talked about how valuable the whole grouping of the comics was, and then my process and how I determined that. I had mentioned a couple comics and their values along with a few weird comics that I had gotten in the bunch. Pope John Paul II is still my favorite, but a couple of people had requested that they wanted to see more about the individual values of the comics, so figure I'd get on here, make a quick little video about the top 10 comics from that entire haul.
Top 10 most valuable comics. Bitches.
Oh, and just a disclaimer warning, these values of these comics is the highest values that I could find for the highest rated version of that comic. And all of them have been sold within like the last year. I could have given an estimate for my like specific comics and their condition and, you know, worth and kind of come up with a ballpark amount, but that's just not as fun. You know, I'd rather see what that comic is in perfect condition and see how much it could potentially be worth. Cause you know, we want to see them big price tags, baby. Them dollar bills, y'all. Alright, let's get into it.
Number 10.
So for number 10 on the list, we have Chamber of Chills #1. So Chamber of Chills is an anthology horror comic book series with different stories that change every issue. The first volume came out in the early 1950s, and the first issue of the second volume, which is this one, contains a story about a dragon.
Number 9.
And at number 9, we have Godzilla, King of Monsters #1. This is the first appearance of Japan's most favorite monster, Godzilla, in the comics. I've always been a fan of Godzilla. I remember watching the old school TV show in Japanese and then watching the movies that had come out more recently. Plus, who could forget the best roar ever?
Number 8.
At number 8, we have Masters of the Universe #1. This is the first issue in a 3-issue series starring the fictional character He-Man. He-Man is a fictional superhero and flagship character of the sword and sorcery themed Masters of the Universe franchise. Not only that, it includes a toy line, several animated television shows, and comic books in a feature film. I'm not sure what was going on, but let's continue.
Number 7.
Alright, next we got Wolverine #3. Although the first appearance of Wolverine came out in The Incredible Hulk issue 181 in 1974, this is the third issue in his first solo comic under the same name. I don't know, something about this cover I just love too. It's just classic. It's just him sitting all alone in the dark. I can relate.
Number 6.
Next we got ROM Space Night #1. This is the first appearance and origin of ROM Space Night, which I had never really heard of before. So if you're unfamiliar with the character, he's essentially like alien cyborg. And I learned that the comic was created to help support a toy that was just created and come out right before, but the toy sucked and nobody bought it. So the comics end up outlasting the toy itself.
Number 5.
Next on the list we got SpiderMan and His Amazing Friends #1. This is a solo comic that is based on the animated series that had come out in the 1980s, and this is actually the first appearance of Firestar in the comics.
Number 4.
Next on the list, we got Moon Knight number 1. This is the first solo issue of the character. I don't know, I really grew a liking for this character when I had seen him introduced in a Spider-Man comic when I was a kid, and he's practically the Batman of the Marvel comics. That is, if Batman had multiple personalities and one of them being an Egyptian god named Khonshu. But yeah, they're pretty much the same. Oh, and there's going to be a Disney Plus show about Moon Knight in the near future, so stay tuned with this comic. It might jump up in price a little bit.
Number 3.
Next, we got Giant Size Chillers number 1, featuring The Curse of Dracula. This is another solo comic featuring the vampire everyone knows and loves, Dracula. Wait, did he laugh like that ever? Or was that the Count from Sesame Street that laughed like that? Yeah, whatever. This is also the first appearance of Lilith, the daughter of Dracula.
Number 2.
At the number 2 spot, we got G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 1. G.I. Joe! This one's pretty valuable because it has the first appearance of a bunch of characters. You got Hawk, Baroness, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and Cobra Commander.
Guys, we're under attack.
By who?
I don't know. Oh, it's Cobra.
I never really got into the G.I. Joe trend because it wasn't nearly as popular in the 90s. Much more so in the 80s, but it's hugely popular and people love it, so that's why this comic's valuable.
Cobra!
Number 1.
And at the number 1 spot, the moment you've all been waiting for, you got Black Panther number 1. I had mentioned this comic in my last video, so you know it was due for a comeback. Black Panther first appeared in the Fantastic Four issue number 52 in 1966, but this is the first comic, the first solo comic under its name. So that does it. That's the top 10 most valuable comics that I got from that haul and potentially that I own, period. And now that you know what's valuable, maybe you're thinking, oh, what else do you like, though? What did you like that might not be as valuable but was sweet from that haul? So here's a few of my favorites. Obviously, Black Panther is towards the top on this list because it's not only valuable, but it's just a sweet comic. It's a cool collector's item. It's a sweet character. Everybody loves the movies and everything. Pretty much every representation of this character is awesome. Just awesome in every way. I can't say awesome enough.
Awesome.
Awesome. Some of my other favorites from this collection include The New Mutants, number 1. This one I like a lot because I like a lot of the stuff related with X-Men, and it's cool to see some different characters, a little bit different from the main characters that you normally see. There's also a film coming out soon. I think it was been pushed back a couple times now at this point, but I'm still really interested to see how that looks. They're doing it in the aspect of like a horror film, so that should be really cool. Next up, one of my faves is Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, number 1. This one's cool because it's just a clash between a couple of my favorite characters. Obviously, Spider-Man at number 1. But yeah, overall, just a cool comic. Okay, next we got the Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans, number 1. This one's great because it's a crossover between Marvel and DC Comics, which was super rare. Obviously a big fan of the X-Men, but I was also a really big fan of the Teen Titans growing up. I watched the TV show as a kid, and it was freaking amazing. I loved it. And finally, to wrap up this list of just a few of my favorites from that group is Superman Man of Steel, number 1. And this is actually the variant cover that I got for this one, and it's pretty cool. It's just an iconic cover, and this actually followed the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline. This name was also obviously used for the adaptation on film, starring the role of Henry Cavill in the role of Superman. And super fun fact, see what I did there? I actually got the pleasure of working with him on a small little indie film. You probably never heard of it. It's called Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Yep, I'm in that steaming pile of crap of a movie. But you know what? I don't even care what people think. I'm proud of that movie. It was awesome. I worked as an extra on the film for 3 days. It was shot on the campus at Michigan State in East Lansing. And it was my first appearance in a film. Get it? Again, appearance. Appearance like appearance in the comic books.
You suck, bro.
Anyone? Anyways, it was so much fun doing it, and because of that movie, I am where I am today. A struggling actor in Los Angeles that can't work at all now because there's a pandemic going on. I don't know. I might do a video in the future, maybe talking about it, just because it was such a cool experience. And, you know, I figure I'd mention it since we're talking about comic books, Superman, you know, the works. Why not throw it in there? Alright, that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed our continued nerdy discussion about comic books. And then sticking around to hear my humble brag about being unnoticed in a subpar film that came out 4 years ago. And now to wrap it up, I just want to say again, everyone, if you're out there, if you're going out protesting, or just going about your normal life, whatever you're doing, stay safe. Thanks, y'all. Oh, fuck. Ow, I'm getting a cramp. Oh, I gotta pause.